Hey there, welcome to Literary Escapes Podcast. I'm your host, Becky, and I'm glad you're here today. The Literary Escape Podcast is for book lovers who love to travel, or maybe travelers who love to read. Either way, I'm glad you're here today. I have some fun literary escapes on tap for you today, so buckle up and let's go. Welcome back to Literary Escape Podcast with me, Becky. Today we've got a different show. I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone. We are doing a spooky take on literary destinations, literary escapes. So join me today as we hit 6 of the top spooky literary escape destinations. First up, I think a lot of people would agree that The Shining is the epitome of scary books. So book number 1 is The Shining by Stephen King. It is set at the Overlook Hotel, which is said to be somewhere in the Colorado Rockies. The story is about Jack Torrance, and he has a new job at the Overlook Hotel, and he's looking for a fresh start. As the off-season caretaker at the atmospheric old hotel, he'll have plenty of time to spend reconnecting with his family and working on his writing. But as the harsh winter weather sets in, the idyllic location feels ever more remote and more sinister. And the only one to notice the strange and terrible forces gathering around the Overlook is Danny Torrance, a uniquely gifted 5-year-old. So if you have read the book, then you know the story, and you know it's a good creepy one. The story is said to, or the location is said to have been inspired by the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, which is set somewhere in the Colorado Rockies. It's a beautiful location, and I'm guessing that in the wintertime it can feel very isolated and probably a little creepy. So creepy destination number 1 is the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. And you might want to take The Shining by Stephen King. Book number 2 for our creepy destinations is The Amityville Horror by J. Anson. I remember when this story came out, I was in, elementary school, somewhere in that time frame, and the story was put in the newspaper with small snippets leading up to Halloween. And it is said to have been a true story. Whether it is or not, I don't know. But it was definitely very creepy and a really good one to add to our list today. And so the story takes place at 112 Ocean Avenue in Long Island, New York. And the story is set in December 1975. The Lutz family moved into a new home on suburban Long Island. George and Kathleen Lutz knew that 1 year earlier, Ronald DeFeo had murdered his parents, brothers, and sisters in the house. But the property, complete with a boathouse and swimming pool, and the price had been too good to pass. 28 days later, the entire Lutz family fled in terror. So this is the story. The house is still there. It is, they've renumbered it, I think, readdressed it. But the Dutch colonial home that was used as the setting of the story is still there. So if you'd like to take a creepy trip up to Long Island, New York, make sure you take The Amityville Horror by J. Anson with you. So book number 2 is The Amityville Horror by J. Anson. You'll want to head to Long Island, New York for this one. So our third story for our creepy literary escape destinations is Sleepy Hollow, New York. And for this, we have The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. It's a short story, but it's one that has endured over the last couple hundred years, probably because the local town has completely embraced the legend and keeps it going. So the legend is the tale of Icabod Crane, who is a Yankee, who is the superstitious schoolmaster, and he is competing with Brom Bones, the local boy, who is somewhat of a prankster, and they're both competing for the hand of the wealthy farmer's daughter. Her name is Katrina. And so Brom Bones plays a lot of pranks on Icabod Crane, and I think he plays on the fact that Icabod is very superstitious. And so it's all kind of brought to a head at the harvest party. Icabod wants to propose to Katrina, and it doesn't sound like it goes. And so he's walking home and he's heavy-hearted and crestfallen, and he has to go from Katrina's family farm through the settlement of Sleepy Hollow. And as he goes through, his imagination just takes off. And that's the whole story. And so read it, enjoy it, and then head to Sleepy Hollow. They have some really fun tours that you can go on to visit the area and hear the locals tell the legend and enjoy it. It would be a lot of fun. So our third destination and book, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, and head to Sleepy Hollow, New York. Book number 4 for our scary literary destinations is Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. This book takes place in 19th century New Orleans and is the story. It's the beginning of the Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice. And in this book, you are face to face with a vampire. And he's telling you about his first 200 years as one of the living dead. And it was quite a sensation when it came out, and everybody was crazy about it. So he takes us back to New Orleans, 19th century New Orleans, and tells all about what his life was like. So he takes us back to 19th century New Orleans. He's at a plantation, and if you wanted to visit that today, you could go to Oak Alley Plantation in New Orleans. Scenes from the movie were filmed there. And so you could see what it might have looked like back in the 1800s in New Orleans and get a sense of what the book, the different places from the book. It would set the scene nicely. New Orleans is such a historic city anyway that you're going to get a good feel for history just by walking around. But the Oak Alley Plantation is a really good place to start. So grab your copy of Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. And I believe there's quite a few in the series, so be prepared to read them all. And head to New Orleans, get cozy with a vampire. So book number 5 on our literary escape tour for Halloween is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This book takes place in Germany and is said to be in the Darmstadt area of Germany. And there is a Frankenstein castle in that area that is purportedly the inspiration for both the name and the geography of the book. If you haven't read Frankenstein, it is the story of Victor Frankenstein, who is obsessed with figuring out how to create life. And so he plunders graveyards for material to create a new being. And this creature that he creates becomes alive and sets out to destroy Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein. If you want to dive into this story, head to Germany and to Frankenstein Castle. Around Halloween time, they turn this castle into a fully immersive haunted house. That sounds like it could be completely chilling. If you're into spooky, that sounds like the place to go. That should be on your bucket list for sure. So take a read of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and then head to Frankenstein Castle, especially if you can do it around Halloween time. I don't know what they're doing during COVID, so you might want to put off a year or so. But what a great adventure that would be to head there and check out the inspiration for Frankenstein and to experience their horror show haunted house. So there you go. That would be a fantastic place to visit. So book number 5 is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. And it is set in Frankenstein's castle the Frankenstein castle in the Darmstadt area of Germany. So our 6th and final book for our literary tour of Halloween is Dracula by Bram Stoker. It would be pretty impossible to do a creepy book tour without including Dracula. I didn't realize that Bram Stoker was an Irish writer. And kind of interesting, I always assumed that he was from the Transylvania area. But no, he is an Irish fellow who created the modern version anyway, modern in the 1800s, and certainly gave vampires a new face in Count Dracula. So the story of Count Dracula is that Dracula is attempting to move from Transylvania to England in search of new blood and spreading his undead curse. And so there is a group of men and women who, led by Professor Abraham Van Helsing, who are battling him, trying to stop him. While Stoker didn't invent the vampire, he certainly made him more popular in modern day. So if you would like to visit Count Dracula, there is Bran Castle in Romania. It is in Transylvania, and it is a museum open to the public. And so perfect place to end your literary Halloween tour in Romania, in Transylvania of all. So Dracula by Bram Stoker is our final book for today's show, and I hope you enjoyed this. 6 books that will take you on a creepy literary tour. We started the show with The Shining by Stephen King in Estes Park, Colorado. We went to Long Island, New York for the Amityville horror. We then went to Sleepy Hollow, New York with The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Next is New Orleans, Louisiana, with Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. Number 5 was Darmstadt, Germany, for Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. And finally, Bran Castle in Romania, Transylvania, Romania, Dracula by Bram Stoker. So those are your creepy literary escapes. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for joining me today on the Literary Escapes podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode and maybe would like some more Literary Escape book recommendations, then come check out the Literary Escape Society. We're a community of travelers who love books, or maybe book lovers who love to travel. Either way, if you need an escape, a literary escape, come join us as we read our way around the world together, one book at a time. Check out the show notes to learn more about the Literary Escape Society. And we'll see you next time on the next episode.